What were the standards? Now they are looking into people, those who are really well versed with testing the back end of the application rather than the front end of the application. Why we want to test the back end of the application? We can catch the bugs at the initial stage itself. That is one key factor. And the functionality of the application would be much better. Why? Because functional related bugs will be caught during the backend testing itself. Okay. And the next thing is, once the backend is tested, the backend APIs are utilized in the front end. That is when the front end will be tested. So we need not wait till the front end is developed and keep waiting for the front end to be developed and test the front end. No need to wait also. If you are very well versed with the backend testing, you can start your testing at the initial stages of the development of the application. Okay, so the industry standards came in this way. Now, the current industry expectation is in such a way that, similar to full stack developer, they are expecting the test engineers to be a full stack test engineers. So what is this full stack test engineer? A test engineer should be aware of UI testing, that is front end testing, and he should be aware of back end testing, that is the API testing or the database testing, and you should be very well versed with automation testing like APM to automate the mobile applications and Selenium to automate the UI applications, and API automation using different tools that is available in the market like rest assured, etc. So if you are very well versed with all these particular technologies that I mentioned, then you are considered as a full stack test engineer. Now, the current industry expectation is full stack test engineer. Okay. And if you are very well versed with any one particular concept, yeah, that is sufficient to fetch a job. But to improve your career to the next level, you should be very well versed with all the technologies that I have mentioned. I hope this is clear with people, those who are already experienced in the industry, right? And with this, let me start with this. What is an API concept? Okay. So as you see in the screen, API stands for Application Programming Interface. It is an acronym for Application Programming Interface. I would request you people to concentrate. Why? Because after certain slides, I will be generating few polls, okay, wherein there would be certain questions that would be asked based on the slides that I walk you people through, and you need to answer those particular questions. And there is a surprise for the person who is leading in this poll results. Okay, you will know what is that particular surprise at the end of this session. Okay, so API acronym is Application Programming Interface, and it is also referred as a business logic layer, where all the business related logics would be written, or business related logic code will be written for the application. And I can say in another term, like API is a mediator between the front end and the back end server of the application, or it is a mediator between the UI and the database layer of the application. And API works on a concept called as request and response. So whatever information or data that you require, you need to request for that information or data. And that information and the data would be fetched by the API, and it would be provided to you as a response. So the key concepts here are API works on the concept of request and response. And API works as a mediator between the front end and the database or the backend of the application, backend server, basically. Okay, so we will understand one simple case study, okay, which will very well suit to understand what exactly is a API. So in this session, we all would have gone to restaurant. If I'm not wrong, everybody would have been to restaurant, right? So once we go to restaurant, are we allowed directly into the kitchen where they prepare food? It's a
No.
question, right?
No.
Great. So what is the procedure? We will go take our seat. Okay. So whatever the restaurant ambience and the place where we go and sit, the look and feel is there, right? That thing we can consider as a front end or UI of our application. Okay. Now, once we take our seat, we'll go through the menu card to understand what all the dishes that they serve. And then there will be somebody called as waiter who will be ready to take the order from you. Okay. So now we request the waiter, hey, take my order. I want one chicken biryani and one mutton biryani for my lover. Okay. So you would have visited the restaurant with your girlfriend. Okay. Now the waiter is also known as a API. What he will do, he will take the request, he will note it down, and he has the permission to get into the kitchen and inform the chef, hey, to that particular table number, the order is one chicken biryani and one mutton biryani. Now the chef will prepare the food and then he will send it to the waiter through waiter. So the waiter who took the request is only the responsible person to get it as a response to you back. Now he will get the chicken biryani and mutton biryani and he will serve on the table that you are. So the same way, whatever the request that you send through the front end of the application, there is a person called as API or a mediator called as API. It will take that request and it will go to the server and make sure that it is processed in the server and it is given back as a response to the request made by that particular user. I hope this is clear.
Yes.
On a nutshell, what is a API? Okay, so let me go further. Just some time ago, I was telling what is the industry's expectation. So this particular case study will or pictorial representation will give you the best understanding of what is the current industry expectation. You see, this is a front end. That means the UI of the application, how neat it looks, right? And there is a mediator who is responsible to make sure that the communication is happening between front end and the back end. And in the back end, all the processing of the data or the information will be happening. So initially, when the QA testing started, it was only restricted to this UI testing. And later, the industry evolved in such a way that the test engineer should know what is API testing as well. And it evolved in such a way that even test engineers should know the backend testing, that is the database testing, where test engineer should write the query and compare the data that he received in the query with the API response data, right? But now the current industry's expectation is full stack testing, wherein it is a combination of this front end, API, back end, wherein you should be very well versed with front end testing as well, and API testing with API automation as well, and writing the SQL queries, and also front end automation using APM or Selenium or XYZ tools. Okay, so they are expecting the QA engineers also to be a full stack test engineer. So that is what current candidates are lacking behind. Okay, so one more main reason why this particular workshop is conducted and we all are here in this workshop is in my tenure and in my I think somebody is unmuted. Can you please mute yourself? So in my experience, I have um, so like interviewed a lot of people. say at least I can say like I have interviewed around 1,000 people. Okay, among them, the outstanding one will be selected. Okay, why the outstanding one will be selected? Because that person will understand the industry requirement and the industry standard, and you will be prepared according to that. So the main motto of this workshop is you people also should be in such a way that you are prepared according to the current industry standards, so that whichever interview that you attend, you can have at least 2 to 3 offer letters in your hand, right? So that is the main motto of this workshop. Hello guys, am I audible?
Yes, Vikram. Yeah.
Okay, great, great. I'm really very sorry, guys. Like the power in my house is acting cranky today. I'm not sure why, and the generator has started. Like I
Okay.
have back again. Okay, guys. So yeah, my screen is visible, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's great. All right. So now we understood what is the purpose of this full stack as of now. Now let's move on further and understand what exactly API does and why API is required. Okay, so see, API is such a concept, okay, which is used to create any particular information or data, or if at all, if you want to fetch or pull any particular data from the server, that is when API is required. And if you want to update any particular existing data in the server, you can perform it through API. And if you want to delete any particular data which is not really necessary or required, you can perform it through the API. And understand one thing, no industry or no organization will give a direct access to their database. Do you think anybody will give direct access to their database?
No.
No, sir.
Right. So in order to overcome this particular thing, that is when this API concept started evolving. Nobody should have direct access to the database, but the data can be accessed only through database. How to achieve this? That is when the concept called API evolved. And through this API, as I already told you, we can create the data in the database, fetch the data, update the data, and delete the data. Okay, let's see a couple of case studies on the same. See, as I told you, in API, everything works as a part of request and response, right? So if you see here, there is a consumer or a user who is trying to book a flight ticket to travel from one source to a destination. Okay. And he makes use of a application called as Make My Trip. If you see here, Make My Trip is a different application, and this AirAsia, British Airways, SpiceJet, Vistara are different application, right? So how come this Make My Trip is communicating with a different application? That is the that is why the use of API came into existence. So through API, a different application can communicate with another application. Basically, any third party application can communicate with our application, or any our application can communicate with any third party application. So how this works, let's go little bit inside and understand this. Now this consumer trying to book a air ticket through Make My Trip, now Make My Trip will get the request from this consumer, and that request is sent to this different service providers. Now This AirAsia, British Airways, SpiceJet, and Vistara people would have exposed their APIs to Make My Trip. So, Make My Trip can access the APIs of these different websites, okay, since it is exposed. Now, using those APIs, Make My Trip is fetching the data that is requested by this end user. Now end user will get to know what is the flight timing of different uh, say like airlines, and what is the price of different airlines on the day whenever you wanted to travel, right? Whichever that suits best, you will make the booking of that particular airlines. Okay. And another case study, like, definitely each one of us in this session would have used Swiggy or Zomato to order food, right? So we will see, like, first we'll try to find the dishes based on the restaurant that is even that can be performed, or you will have some dish in your mind. Okay, I want to eat this dish. Now you will search based on the dish. Now what will happen, the request will go to Swiggy or Zomato, whichever application that you are using basically. Now what will happen, appropriate request will be sent to the database, and the exposed APIs will get the information. Hey, the user is looking for a particular dish. In our example, let us consider I'm looking for a masala dosa to have. We will get a list of restaurant who is serving that masala dosa. Now among those restaurants, list of restaurants, I will select any one particular restaurant and I will try to place a order. Now again, the request will go to Swiggy or Zomato. Now, in turn, the Swiggy or Zomato will try to access the APIs that is exposed by those restaurants, and then the request would be satisfied, and the delivery partner of Swiggy or Zomato will deliver the masala dosa to the end user or the customer. So, getting the fair bit of understanding, like how exactly the APIs will work. The APIs can communicate with a different application altogether. And using APIs, we can create a data, we can fetch the data, update the data, and delete the data. Right. So let me move on to the next slide. And yeah, before moving on to the next slide, as I already told you people, right? So I would be conducting a poll. So whatever that we understood in this particular 2 to 3 slides, we will come up with a poll so that you people are understanding me properly or not. I can gauge that. So yes, let us quickly conduct the poll, guys. So just give us few seconds. You will have a poll right in front of you, and can answer it. And as I told you guys, you will have a surprise for the lead scorer, which we will be relieving at the end of the session. So Okay, are you people not able to navigate to the second question? Hello.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you check now whether you are getting the option to navigate to the second question?
No, no, no.
Okay. The person who is mm, sharing the poll, can you please move on to the next question? Do you have an option to move on to the next question? Or else you can create one more poll and come up with the next question. That also
Sure, sure.
works.
Yeah.
I think you have to close this, Vikram. If you close this, yeah, close it. Yeah.
So are you able to come up with the next question? The person who is sharing the poll.
No.
Vikram, you can continue. I guess we can keep this poll later on.
Okay, fine. So we can come up with the complete polls then. All right. So let me continue. All right. So the next concept is types of architecture. Okay. So consider any application. Okay. They will follow a architectural standard to develop the application. Right. So there are different architectural types. So these are different architectural styles. That is, one is one tier architecture, two tier, three tier, and there are few other architecture which I'll be explaining in on a brief nutshell. So what is this one tier architecture? This one tier architecture is an architecture wherein the application is developed in such a way that the application has to be installed in the machine that you are using, and then you can access that particular application. And if the application is installed in your machine, only in that particular machine the application can be accessed. So the best example for one tier architecture would be, I can say, or Microsoft Office. Okay, in order to use Microsoft Office application, we need to install it on our machine, and then we need to use it. And the database also will be along with that application itself. Now, coming to two tier architecture. So the two tier architecture works in the form of a client and server base. Okay. So what is a client? A client is a software which sends a request, and server is a software which satisfies the request sent by the client by sending the response. Okay. So here we need to install the client software in the say like local machines or mobile applications. or mobile devices, sorry. Okay, once you install the application in the devices or in the laptops, the client application can be used to communicate with the server application and get the data whatever that they are looking for, or perform the action whatever that they are looking for. So I can give a best example, like we need to install the WhatsApp or Facebook on our mobile devices in order to use it, right? So the application whatever that we have installed in our mobile device, that acts as a client application, and whatever the action that you perform, it will interact with the server application, and then it will respond back to us. So such kind of application are developed or built based on the two-tier architecture. Now, coming to three-tier architecture. Here, in this three-tier architecture, there is no such thing called as a client software, but still it will work in the form of a client server architecture. Now you can ask me, hey, you are telling there is no client application, then how come you are saying it is a client server architecture? Yes, it is still a client server architecture. Okay. Here, the browser will act as a client. Okay. So the best example for this three-tier architecture would be the web-based applications, wherein, for example, you'll open a browser and you'll type www.google.com. Okay. It is a web application. No need to install any client to access google.com, but there should be something called as browser. Browser will act like a client. And once you type google.com and push enter, now the request will go to the server. Now server will make sure that the Google homepage is displayed on the browser from where the request is placed. Okay, so here we have a browser as a client, and there would be something called as a backend server, and there would be something called as a database server. Okay, so which is why this kind of architecture is called as a three-tier architecture. And moving further, the current industry, okay, they are using something called as a service-oriented architecture. Okay, see, a service-oriented architecture, it is also called as a monolithic architecture. Okay, wherein it purely works on a request and response based. Okay, and if you see here, there is a browser which acts as a client, or the application in the mobile device which acts as a client, and whatever the information that you require or the data that you require, you'll send it in the form of a request, and that request will go to web server, which is a presentation layer, wherein this presentation layer is responsible to give the UI through this browser or through this mobile device. Okay, and in turn, this web server will send the request to the application server, where all the business logics are written, or it is also called as business logic layer or business layer. And this business layer in turn communicates with the database layer or the database server, and it comes up with a response. Okay, so you can relate this APIs, whatever that you understood till now, right? So everything works here in the service oriented architecture or in this monolithic architecture. Everything works based on the request and response. So majority of the application that we are using, they are built based on the service oriented architecture. But now whatever the applications that is built using this monolithic or service oriented architecture, they are now migrating into a architecture called as microservices architecture. So this is the current trending and uh, architecture that the current industries are using. So take Facebook or WhatsApp or any leading application. Okay, they are migrating from this monolithic architecture to the microservices architecture. And how this microservices architecture is different from this monolithic architecture, right? Let's understand with this particular simple diagram. See, the same way how this monolithic architecture, same way the microservices architecture work, but the only difference is Each and every service would be built as a separate microservice. So here in this diagram, this is a application built for a academy or a institute, wherein students can log in and they can search for the courses that they wanted to select pursue. And once they select the course, they need to make the payment for that course, and they can pursue that course and complete the course and get the certificates accordingly. Now, if you notice, there is a microservice called a student microservice. There is a service called as courses microservice and payment microservice. So why the current industry are migrating from monolithic to microservices? The reason behind that is each and every service is independent on other services. So this student microservice will have its own database. Courses microservice will have its own database. Payments will have its own database. Suppose imagine a situation if any one particular service is down and it is not working. Okay, rest other services will work as it is. But here what will happen if any one particular service is down? Okay, the dependent services, all the services, we cannot use it. But here, to defeat that purpose, they are coming up with the microservices architecture, wherein each and every services will be considered as a microservice. Suppose imagine the courses microservice is not working, the student microservice and the payments microservice will work as it is. Why? Because they are not dependent on each other, they are independent on each other. Only thing what we should do is the courses microservices, whatever the issue that is happening, we should fix that issue so that courses microservices also will run and it will serve the purpose. So these are the different architectural designs that the industry is following, and the booming architecture at present is the microservices architecture. Now let me quickly move on to the next slide. So in this slide, we will understand what is a web service. Okay, so a web service is a open source protocols or a standards that is followed to exchange the data between different applications, and it works on the request and response concept, and it works on the client server applications. For example, you people might have encountered this. Whenever you're logging into a particular application, right, you will see an option login via Google, login via Facebook. But the application that you're trying to log in, it would be a completely different application. Have you people seen such option? Hello? Am I audible, guys? Or have I lost you people?
Yes, sir, audible.
Okay, so yeah, that was a question for you people. Okay, have you ever encountered to log into a particular application? Have you ever seen login via Google or login via Facebook? Such kind of options have you come across? Or
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
right.
Yes.
So what exactly is happening here? Here, the communication is happening between two different applications altogether. Okay. To the application to which you are trying to log in, right? It will have the API's access of login feature of Google, and it will have the API access of login feature of Facebook. Right. So that is how two different applications exchange information or data between each other. Right. So in order to achieve this web service, to communicate between different system, what is the mandatory thing that is required? Can somebody tell me? What is that it is required in order to communicate between two different applications? It is the answer would be really very silly answer, but I want you people to come up with the answer. Let me see who will give the answer. To communicate between two different applications, I need something very important. What is that?
API.
Okay, I will take that answer API, but that
URL.
is okay. I will take that answer URL as well. But there is something really very important. Can you people guess?
Internet.
Yes. Who is that? Who is the person who told internet?
Me. Ikshita.
Ikshita. Okay, nice guess, Ikshita. Right. So, guys, without internet, is it possible for two different applications to communicate? I am saying API is required. I totally agree. Okay, and also URL is also required. I totally agree. But there should be something called as internet. So these web services works on the concept called as internet, wherein it uses the HTTP protocols, okay, and it uses the concept of request and response. So in order to make use of our web service, we need to have a URL, as somebody told me, okay, and we need to have a concept called as request and response, which is API. I totally agree. And something important than all these things is the internet, right? Without these things, a web service cannot perform any sort of action. Clear? So now in this case study, again, a user is trying to say like find multiple things, right? Is trying to find a food delivery partner or travel booking application. Is trying to book a cab, or is trying to book a movie ticket, and is trying to register for a OTT application, right? For each and everything, there should be a web service that is required. From now on, I will be addressing the API as web service. Okay, you should understand a web service is also API only, but there is some difference between this API and web service that you'll understand what exactly that difference is. Okay, so this consumer is trying to access all these particular services through a concept called as web service using a client server architecture application through HTTP protocol by sending a request and getting a response based on that. Right. So now let us understand what is the difference between a API and a web service. You see, there is some difference between API and web service. And what is that? All web services are APIs, whereas not all APIs are web services. So, what do you understand by this? Is if you call a service as a web service, then it is an API. Okay, but if you want to call a API as a web service, then it should satisfy these particular conditions, that it should use a HTTP protocol, okay, and it should use a concept called as request and response. That is when a API can be called as a web service. So that is the reason this is the major difference. All web services are APIs. APIs can be converted to a web service, but API which is not converted to web service, we cannot call it as a web service. Simple. Okay. And a web service is a service which enables the communication between two different applications. How? You people only gave the answers for that through URL, okay, through APIs. So that is the justification of all web services are APIs. Okay. And through these web services, we can access a different systems payment gateway processing. Okay, we can log in through a web service using a different uh, select login APIs. For example, that we discussed, right? To log into any particular application, we can log in through Google, or we can log in through Facebook, or we can log in through some XYZ third-party applications, right? So when APIs are exposed to other applications, it should have been converted as a web service. That is when a API can communicate between different application, right? So API should be converted as a web service, which is nothing but it should have a HTTP protocol, and it should work on the concept of request and response. That is when a API can be called as a web service. And once it is a web service, then only the communication between two different applications can happen. I hope this is clear. Right. So let me move on to the next slide. So here in this slide, we are seeing SOAP web service. So basically, when I told you what is a web service, right, there are few types of web services that is used in the industry. So what are those web services? The pretty first web service that I want to address here is SOAP web service, which is a simple object access protocol. This is the acronym of SOAP web service. Okay, so SOAP web services, and it works on an architecture design and is based on an interaction between three different components. One is the SOAP sender or the service provider, and another one is a service requester, and another one is a service registry, which is an optional service. No need to worry about this optional service. Now we will understand how the request and response happens in this SOAP web services. Okay, so SOAP request and response will happen in the form of SOAP messages. Okay, so SOAP messages are responsible to send a request and to receive a response. So what are these SOAP messages? Basically, these SOAP messages are XML documents. Okay, so what is XML? XML is the acronym for extensive markup language. Okay, it is a language that is used as a communication medium to send the requests and to get the response back in the XML format itself. So a SOAP message is a XML document, to be precise. Now, what does this SOAP message consist of? That we will understand. This SOAP message will consist of something called as envelope and header and body. So what is this envelope? The envelope is a encapsulation of this header and body. If you see this pictorial representation, this envelope consists of header and body. So encapsulation of this header and body into one single unit is known as an envelope. Okay, and this is the actual XML document, or this is the actual SOAP message. This envelope, whatever that we are seeing, is the actual SOAP message. And coming to the header, what does this header consist of? This header will consist of the information of whether you are an authorized person to access any particular information, or you are an authenticated person to log into any particular application. So all such information will be available under the header section. And coming to body section, the body section will consist of the actual message itself. Suppose, imagine, I think there are many guys over here and many girls. Uh, who is your favorite hero or heroine? I will pick up the hero or heroine who will be quick enough.
Ritik.
Okay, so I'll pick up Ritik. Fine. So now, uh, the person who told Ritik is the favorite hero. Now, what she will do? She wants to check some Wikipedia of Ritik. Okay, she will open google.com and she will input the key as Ritik or Ritik Roshan. Now, what will happen? Ritik Roshan is the information, or Wikipedia of Ritik Roshan is the information what the user is looking for. So the Ritik Roshan keyword will be sent through this body. So basically, this particular body element consists of whatever the actual information that we are looking for. That information will be sent through this body. And the person who is trying to access the Ritik Roshan Wikipedia, Okay, whether he has access to access that particular information, those particular details will be sent in the header, and together these two forms an envelope or a SOAP message. Now if you come back to this left hand side image, a SOAP sender will send the request through this HTTP medium through a SOAP request message. What is the SOAP request message? In the body, we are trying to access Ritik Roshan Wikipedia, and in the header, I am providing whether I do have access to access the details regarding Ritik Roshan. Okay, that is the SOAP message. Now it goes to the SOAP receiver. Now SOAP receiver will process this particular message and it will send back the HTTP SOAP response message. This is a SOAP request message. This is a SOAP response message. Now the SOAP response message is received to this SOAP sender. Now the person will be able to access the Ritik Roshan Wikipedia and she can understand like how many movies he has acted and from which age he started his career and what is his date of birth, etc. All the details you can access. So this is how the SOAP web services will work. Okay, I hope this is clear to you people. And one more thing to tell you, like this SOAP web services is a legacy web service. Okay, legacy as in pretty old web services. Okay, but still it is in use. Okay, still it is in use. Why? I'll tell you. It uses the XML as a communication medium, which is really high time security is there here. And in which kind of application or what kind of application the SOAP web services are used, I'll tell you. These SOAP web services are used in the banking related applications. Okay, in banking related applications or legacy systems, and this SOAP web services legacy uh, web services are used in banking application. Okay, I hope uh, why I am saying this particular example you people might understand. Now coming to the next type of web service. The next type of web service is RESTful web services, or the acronym of RESTful is representational state transfer, or it is even known as REST. So you people don't take rest now, please concentrate. Okay, why? Because this particular RESTful web services is the predominantly used web services in the current industry. Okay, so you might not get interview questions based on SOAP web services, but you will definitely get interview questions based on RESTful web services. Why? Because majority of the organizations use RESTful web services to develop their application. Okay, so now let us understand on a brief note what is this RESTful web services. See, RESTful web services is an architectural design, okay, and which has to satisfy certain constraints or which has to satisfy certain principles. Okay, and those principles are, I can say, uniform interface or stateless, or I can say cacheable, or I can say layered system, or I can say code on demand. So whatever that I told, I will explain you on a brief note. Okay, so if RESTful web services follows this architectural design of whatever the constraints that I told, then it will be called as a RESTful web services. Okay, so now what is the use of all these constraints? If all these constraints are used, then the performance and the scalability and the reliability of the application will be more, or it would be high. Okay, so this particular RESTful web services, again, it works on the client server architecture. Okay, and it is designed to use a stateless communication. Right, we'll understand what is this stateless communication, and we'll understand what is this HTTP in the architectural design of REST architecture. Okay, so it typically uses say like client server architecture to exchange the information. Okay, and one more important thing that you need to keep in your mind is This RESTful web services or REST web services will consider everything as a resource. Okay, so you see, in the REST architectural style, client and server exchange representation of resources by using a standardized interface and protocol. So take whatever it is, everything is considered as a resource in REST web services. Okay, so if you see in this pictorial representation, there is a client machine, okay, which is using certain methods called get, post, put, delete. You'll understand what is this get, post, put, delete. Okay, a request is sent and it is a HTTP request, and the request is processed, and you will get a HTTP response, and the response will be in the form of JSON, XML, HTML, etc., and you will get the response on the machine or the client machine. Okay, so as of now, just keep in your mind, this is how the RESTful web services work. Now we will understand what is the RESTful architectural constraints. I think somebody is yeah. Okay, let's come back. Fine. So now let me move on to the next slide. So see, I have told you, if it has to be called as a RESTful web services, or it should follow certain principles or constraints of a REST architecture. So what are those principles and constraints? You people might have come across this in your day-to-day usage of any application. Okay, so there is something called as uniform interface. So what is this uniform interface? This uniform interface is a combination of resource, URI, and HTTP. Okay, so what is this resource? As I told you, everything is considered as a resource in REST. Take a employee ID in an organization, that is also a resource. Take a employee name, that is also a resource. Okay, take a department is also a resource. Everything would be considered as a resource in REST architecture. Now coming to the next one, it uses URI. So any resource, if you want to access, or any information if you want to access, it works on the concept called as URI. So what is this URI? It is a uniform resource identifier. So if you want to uniquely identify any particular resource from the database, then you need to send which unique resource that you want to access through the URI. Then only you will be getting that uniquely, whichever resource that you are trying to access, that resource will be sent as a response to you. And there is one more thing called as HTTP. So it will make an explicit use of HTTP methods like post, get, put, and delete. What are these post, get, put, and delete? I'll explain it in later stage. But as of now, you understand it will use all these three concepts like resource, everything is considered as resource, and through URI, it will uniquely mention where exactly that resource is, and I wanted to access this particular resource, and it will make use of this HTTP methods in order to access the resources. Okay, now this is one particular principle that REST has to follow. Now coming to the next one. Okay, so if you want to say like understand this thing better, I can show you one simple thing. So now I'll go to google.com. Okay, so what is this google.com? It is a URI. I am uniquely specifying I want to access google.com. Now here I'll come and I will say Aishwarya Rai. Okay, I don't like this button at the last. Fine. So now what I have done, I have provided Aishwarya Rai. Now, if you see here, in this particular URI, I am searching for a key with the value called as Aishwarya plus Rai. And I am getting the detailed information about Aishwarya Rai over here. So if you want to uniquely identify any particular resource, okay, you need to mention what resource you are trying to access. I hope this is clear now. I think this will make more sense what exactly this uniform interface is, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's come to something called as stateless. See, I have been telling you people, if you want to access any information or data, I need to send it in the form of a request. And that request will hit the server and server will send the response back to you. Correct. What I will do, I will hit the same request 100 times. The request will hit the server and server will send me back the response. But what server will do, server will not store any sort of information or any sort of detail of the request that we are sending to the server. Clear? Whatever the request that we send, it will go to server will process it, send back the response and forget the request. That is how server will work. Okay, so that concept of forgetting the request by the server is known as stateless. So if a RESTful architecture has to be called as a REST architecture or a REST web services, then it has to satisfy stateless as well. Now coming to the next style, that is code on demand. So this code on demand is optional. If you don't follow this code on demand, still we can call REST architecture as a REST web service. Okay, but
Sir,
just
can you
for,
explain? Sir, can you explain once again stateless, sir?
yes, sure. See, as we understood, everything works on request and response. Okay, so in this example, what I have done, I have tried to access the information of Aishwarya Rai. Now, I will provide the input as Aishwarya Rai. A request will be created. As soon as I push the enter key, the request will go to the Google server, and Google server will send me the response. This is the response. And Google will forget the request, whatever that I have shared or whatever that I have sent. Okay, so the server will not remember the request that is sent by the client. It will process the request, send the response, and forget the request. Process the request that it has received, send the response, and forget the request. So stateless means server will not remember the request that is sent by the client. I hope this is clear now in simple terms.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Now coming to code on demand. So as I already told you, code on demand is optional. So no need to worry. But still, I will give you or brief you what exactly this code on demand is. So whatever the code that is written by the developer, right? Some set of code will be stored in the server side, or some set of logic of the code that would be written would be saved in the server side. And based on the necessity, the client will download that particular logic or the code and it will execute it in the client side. So if you have not understood this, don't ever worry, because this is not a mandatory information or mandatory detail that should be performed in order to create a REST web service. Clear? So, simple term, developer will write a code. That code will be stored in the server, and on need basis, the client will download the code. It will execute in the client side. Simple. That's it. Now, coming to the next principle. The next principle is cacheable. What is this cacheable? Now, suppose imagine you are trying to access a request. I can come up with one particular example which majority of us would have encountered, right? So how many people here will log into your banking or salary account during the last day of the month to check whether the salary is credited or not? You will be logging into your banking application to check the balance. How many of you do that?
Yeah, every month.
Everyone.
Every month.
Everyone will do that. Yeah, everyone.
Correct. Correct. So I can take that as a best example for this cashable concept. Okay. What will happen whenever you try to check the balance? The request will go hit the server, the banking server, and the banking server will send the response back to you with the balance. Okay. Now, the response, whatever that is sent by the server, right? The server will mention whether it is a cacheable data or non-cacheable data. If it is a cacheable data, what will happen? The data will be stored in your local machine for some duration. Okay, for some duration. And within that duration, if you send the same request to the server, the request will not go to the server. Instead, what will happen? The request will fetch the same data that is saved in your local machine and send it back to you. Till when? Till that particular cacheable data is alive. So there would be certain duration. Till that duration, that cacheable data will be available in your system. And within that time duration, if you hit the same request to the server, the request will not go to the server. It will fetch the data from your local machine itself and show it to you. And once that cacheable data is expired, its time is gone. Okay, that's it. You are dead now. Now that cacheable data is dead. Now again, if you hit the same request, now the request will go to the server and it will fetch the data from the server. So what I'm trying to say here is, if you're hitting the same request multiple times, okay, all the time the request will hit the server and server should respond back. So what will happen? There will be unnecessary load on the server, right? So in order to make sure that the server performance high and the scalability of the server is high, they will implement a concept called as cacheable, wherein if the data is cached, the data will be saved in your local machine. Till what time it should be alive, that should also be mentioned. Okay, within that time limit, if you hit the same request, the response will be from the stored data in your local machine, not from the server. And once the cacheable data is dead, that is when the request will go hit the server again and get the latest response. I hope this is clear.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now coming to layered system. What is layered system? See, whenever we send a request to the server, right, in between there are certain layers that is available, such as proxy layer or gateway layer. Okay, so what is this proxy layer? What is this gateway layer? Okay, this proxy layer is a kind of replica of a actual server. Okay, and what is the job of this proxy server? It will check the security of the request, whether you are authorized person or not authorized person. Okay, and it will keep monitoring. And one other thing that it does is, it will simplify the request by checking all the necessary action items, and then it will just send the request to the actual server, so that actual server can just simply send the response. Why? Because the security related stuff is checked by proxy layer or the proxy server. And coming to this gateway layer, see, now the IPL has started, right? From yesterday, IPL is started. Whenever Bangalore RCB is playing, okay, even though RCB loses the match, but still, ee sala cup namde. That is the only funda that we have in our mind, and we still watch the RCB match. So what will happen? There will be huge number of requests that will go into the OTT application. So now what this gateway server will do, in order to handle the traffic of huge inflow of the request, this gateway layer will make sure that the traffic is handled in a smoother way so that no user is facing difficulty in watching the match, right? So in simple term, if there is a huge number of traffic, to handle the traffic, there is a traffic cop, and that cop is gateway layer. Is it clear? So if a web service has to be called as a REST web service, then it has to work on these principles, that is uniform interface, stateless, cacheable, and layered system. If it is utilized, these principles are utilized and a web service is developed, then it is called as a REST web service. And this is the predominantly used web service in the current industry. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, let's move on. So I told you, I will be explaining you what is this HTTP, right, and what are the HTTP methods. Okay, so HTTP's acronym is Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and it is a foundation of the World Wide Web. Okay, so World Wide Web is a consortium or a community, okay, wherein you, through this community or through this foundation, the HTTP protocols are used. What is a protocol? It is a communication medium, okay, which informs what kind of action to be performed on the application or what kind of action should be performed on the server. Okay, so now what will happen if we are using this HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol? We should explicitly mention what HTTP methods we are using. So these are the HTTP methods that you are seeing: post, get, put, patch, delete. Okay, so what are these? These are HTTP methods. Okay, suppose if I want to create a data in the database, okay, or in simple terms, I want to create a Gmail account. What I will do if I want to create a Gmail account? Can somebody tell me? If I want to create a Gmail account, what I
Log
will do?
into Gmail.
No, I have not yet created the Gmail account, but how can you log in?
Sign in. Register.
URL.
I need to sign up, guys. I need to register.
Yeah,
Right?
sign up.
Correct? So I need to register myself. So during the time of registration, what I will do, I will provide my first name, I will provide my last name, I will provide my middle name, I will provide my surname, etc., 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 and I will provide my phone number, and I will select the email address that I wanted to create. Okay, all these information, whatever that I am providing, okay, these information will go and sit in the database of Gmail. Correct? So in order to create an account or register myself to any particular website, I should be using this post request or post method, wherein this will create a new resource in the collection or in the server. Okay, so now I have created an account in a particular website. I want to get some information through that website. Get some information as in, I need to get the emails that is in my inbox. Then to retrieve the resources or to retrieve all the resources from the database, I will use the HTTP method called as get. So I'm creating a resource, and to create a resource, I'm using post HTTP method. And to get a resource, I'm using get HTTP method. And now suppose imagine while creating my Gmail account, okay, this would be applicable for girls or yeah, girls basically. Why? Because your last name will change once you get married, right? So before marriage, your father's name will be your last name, and after marriage your husband name will come and sit there, right? So you have created a Gmail account with your first name and your father's name as a last name. Now you got married and you want to change your last name from your father to your husband. So what you want to do, you need to update that particular information. So in order to update, we will be using put method. Okay, and put method works in such a way that if you want to update, you need to provide the entire resource to update it. And if you want to just update only the last name, then you can go for patch method. So patch method is used to update a partial information in the resource. Put method is used to update the complete information in the resource. That is the difference between put and patch. And finally, coming to this delete, as the name suggests, this delete HTTP method is used to delete the resource that is available in the server. I hope now it is clear what are these HTTP methods.
Clear with.
Okay, I'll just quickly run through the chats that I have received in case if there are any questions, then I can just quickly. Okay, somebody has told register. Great. Okay, poll is ready. Fine. All right. So let's quickly take the poll, guys. Till now, whatever that we have covered, right? We'll quickly take the poll, and you people can answer the questions in the poll, and then we can continue. So you people are not able to see my slides, right? As of now.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Quickly answer the questions. You people haven't received the poll. I am not seeing anybody answering.
Answering, Vikram.
Okay, great. Yeah. Hi guys, I can see only 24 out of 62 have given the polls. So can you quickly, the other people can add the polls? See, whatever that you understood till now in the session, the same thing has been given as a questions. Okay. So if you answer it, you can gauge yourself how much you are understood. Okay. So quickly do that, and you can only get to know like what are the concepts that you have understood and how much you have understood with respect to the API. Okay. And you will not lose anything, right? If you are right, you will gain some goodies from our end. That's it. So nothing to lose. So go ahead and answer it. Guys, I'm seeing the time is ticking out. Okay, the poll will end in the 6th minute. If you need more time, quickly tell me. I can increase 1 more minute because I can see only 32 members out of 61 have completed it. But still, I have increased it for 7 minutes. 1 more minute is there. People, those who have not done, quickly do it. Final 30 seconds, guys. Okay, guys. So the poll is ended. All right. Uh, I think majority of you people have answered. That's wonderful to see. Uh, all right. So I'll just close this poll and we can continue with the rest of the topics that I need to cover with respect to API. So yeah. All right. So let me go to the next slide. Now, as I told you, uh, there's a concept called as URI, Uniform Resource Identifier. Right. So what is this Uniform Resource Identifier? This Uniform Resource Identifier is uh, say like you a link that is used to uniquely identify a particular resource. And this Uniform Resource Identifier has two different subsets. One is URL, that is Uniform Resource Locator. Another one is URN, that is Uniform Resource Name. Okay, so how this Uniform Resource Locator will work? It has certain things to send through the URL, that is the schema, like what kind of schema it should be using, that is HTTP. Okay, which is not a mandatory thing, it is an optional thing. Why? Because if I ask you people every time when you browse a website, do you explicitly type HTTP colon slash slash and then www.google.com? No, right? You will just type google.com, correct? So these all are optional things which would be auto-filled, right? In the same way, domain name is required. Okay, so what is this domain name? Whichever domain that you are trying to access, either google.com or facebook.com or yahoo.com, that should be required. And there is something called as port number, which is a optional information. And there is something called as path of the file or path to the file, which is a mandatory information. And there is something called as query, which is again a mandatory information. Okay, so if you send all these things to uniquely identify a particular resource, so what are we trying to identify here? We are trying to identify a product called camera, right? And this particular anchor, it's again a select optional, so no need to provide this. So if we hit this particular URL, we will be able to uniquely identify the product called as camera through this website. So this is a subset of URI, Uniform Resource Identifier, and URL is a subset of URI, and URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator. Now, there is another subset for this URI, that is Uniform Resource Name. So this Uniform Resource Name is used to identify a resource through its name. Okay, so through its name, in the sense like, imagine there is an organization with n number of employees. Now you want to identify a particular employee whose name is Vikram. So there can be multiple people by name Vikram, right? So what will happen? We will get multiple set of output, or multiple set of response with the name Vikram. So in order to identify a resource uniquely, the URN defeats that purpose. So this is not used much. Okay, so the thing that is used is URL. Why? Because we can uniquely identify the resource whatever that we are looking for. This is very, 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 very rarely used, so no need to worry much about this. But however, URN and URL is a subset of Uniform Resource Identifier, that is URI. All right, let me move forward. Now, coming to a concept called as endpoint. Okay, so again, I am taking a example of Aishwarya Rai. Why? Because she is my favorite. All right. So now going forward, what is this endpoint? The endpoint is something which is appended along with the URL or URI. Okay. So if you see here, this is the URI or URL, https://www.google.com. Okay. Now I want to identify Aishwarya Rai and I want to access her Wikipedia. What I am doing, I am appending Aishwarya Rai / Wikipedia, which is called as the endpoint. If you see here, Aishwarya / Wikipedia is the endpoint, which is appended along with the domain name to uniquely identify a particular resource. Got it? But in some organization, they will call the entire thing as an endpoint. Don't get confused. Endpoint means actually this, but in some organization, they will call entire thing as an endpoint. So if in organization, if a developer asks you, hey, you told that API is not working, can you share me the endpoint? You can share the complete thing, or you can share only this. What I recommend is share the complete URL, which endpoint is not working. Now, I have few more examples over here. So there is a pet store wherein I can place the order and purchase a pet. Okay, so this is a post request. Why this is a post request? I am searching for a pet. For example, I am planning to buy a Pomerian. Okay, in the store, okay, I want to order a Pomerian. Okay, this is the endpoint /store/order, and in the request body or in the payload, which is the next concept which we'll understand. Okay, I will send the information as Pomerian. So I can be able to place the order through the post request. Why? Because I am sending a detail. I am trying to purchase a Pomorian. Pomorian is a data. Okay. And along with that, it will have what is the price of that particular Pomorian. Okay. And what is the total amount that I should pay to purchase that Pomorian. All those information will be provided in the post request in the form of a payload or request body, which will understand quickly. Okay. Now I place the order. Now, once after I place the order, there should be a order ID that would be generated, right? And using that order ID, I can check the status of that particular order. So in order to check the status or fetch the details of the status of the order, I'll use a get request wherein I am retrieving the status of this order ID. Correct? Find purchase order ID, and I'm fetching that order ID and checking the status. Now coming to the delete request. What I am doing, I am trying to delete this particular order, whichever that I placed. So in order to delete an order, I need to have some mandatory information called as order ID. Correct. So /store/order/order ID and the HTTP method as delete. So the order will be deleted. And one more get request, like I want to check the inventory or what type of pets that is available in the pet store. So I can go to store and the inventory of that store. I'm again getting the information. Now, to perform this post request, as I already told you in my previous example, to register, I will provide my personal details in the registration form. Same way, to purchase a pet, I need to mention what kind of pet that I want to purchase, right? So that particular information is known as payload. Okay. So if you see here, the post, put, and patch requests can have the request body or payload. In industry, they might tell what is the payload that you sent or what is the request body that you sent. Everything is same. Okay. And this payload can be sent in the form of a JSON, which is an acronym for JavaScript object notation, or it can be sent in the form of a XML, which is an extensive markup language. Okay. The request body sent in post request creates the resource. However, the request body sent in the put and patch request will update the resource. So there is one example that I have got here, right? So a person is trying to book something, okay, or for example book a flight example. So in order to book a flight, I need to provide my first name, my last name, and whatever the different set of prices that is available to book a flight. I need to select that price, and that price should show over here. And deposit paid, if it is true, that means I have paid the deposit. If it is false, I have not yet paid the deposit. And the booking dates, the check-in date should be there, checkout date should be there. Acha, this is for a hotel booking. Okay. This day I'll be checking in, and this day I'll be checking out. Okay. And additional needs, if I want breakfast till the date I am staying in that particular hotel. Okay. Whether I need breakfast or not, or whether I need lunch or not, whether I need dinner or not, all those information can be sent through this payload. Based on this payload, the data will be created in the database of this HeroCup booking app of the hotel. Clear? What is a payload and what is the endpoint?
It's good.
Yes, sir. It's good.
Okay, let me move further. Now, one more important thing that is required in order to create any particular request is authentication and authorization. What is authentication? Authentication is something which shows the server who you are. Okay, or it is a kind of identity to show the server whether you are the right person to access this application. Okay, and authorization is something which whether you are a eligible person to access a particular resource from the website or from the server. Okay, so if you see this pictorial representation, authentication is something which the username and the password that you want to furnish to get inside or to show who you are, or you are the authenticated person to get into that particular website. And authorization is something which, whether you are the authorized person to get that particular data. If I want to give one more real-time example, you are an employee of a company. Now, you will have something called as access card or an ID card to get into the company or get inside the organization. And there is something called a server room in the organization. Okay, in server room you might have seen only authorized people are allowed. So a IT person will be allowed inside the server room and nobody else will be allowed, right? So what will happen? Will you be able to get inside the server room?
No.
Right? So if you get inside the server room and if IT person notices it, he will send a complaint to the higher official or other higher management, wherein we need to face the consequences, right? So same way, if you want to access any data, you should be a authorized person in order to access the data. Okay, and quickly we will see what are the different types of authorizations. Here comes a no auth, which means you do not require any authorization in order to access. For example, let me take the example of a organization itself. You have access card and you have accessed it and you came inside an organization. There are multiple departments like sales department, marketing department, HR department, etc. In order to visit these departments, no specific authorization is required. You can directly visit these departments. Okay, suppose in case if you need an authorization in order to get into any particular department, that is when these kind of API key authorization or basic authorization is required. So API key authorization is a key value pair, okay, which acts as an authorization for you to check whether you are eligible to access this particular resource. That is when this API key is used. And this basic auth is something which you will have to insert your username and password, okay, in order to showcase yourself whether you are a eligible person to access this particular resource. So these are different types of authorization. There are few more authorizations which are advanced level authorization, which will not scratch our head into much in the advanced level authorization. Okay, uh, you will understand once you yourself try to use the APIs. Okay, so let me move further. Now, there is a concept called as query parameter. Okay, there's a concept called as query parameter. I'll show you in this example. See, I entered google.com, Google homepage appeared, right? And then I clicked inside the search. Now, I'm inside the search bar. Now, there is a question mark. Okay. After this question mark, there is a key called as Q, and there is a value called as Aishwarya plus Rai. Okay. The same way, if you see here, sorry, my bad. Yeah. If you see here, the same way, query params are appended to the end of the request URL following question mark and listed in key value pairs. And if there are multiple query parameters, then it is separated by ampersand. So this is the syntax. So query parameters are parameters which are appended along with the URL to uniquely identify a particular resource. For example, I want to pull a employee whose employee ID is 420. Okay, nice employee ID, right? So I want to see who has that employee ID 420. Now, what I will do, I will go to that domain of that website and I will say fetch the employee ID or get employee question mark where employee ID equal to 420. And if I push the enter key, I should be able to see the employee whose employee ID is 420. And it comes up with the response. The employee name is Vikram. and his designation is so and so, etc. Clear. And if there are multiple query parameters that you want to provide, for example, you want to fetch the employee whose salary is between 20,000 and 30,000, and whose salary is between 30,000 and 40,000. During that time, what will happen? Come up with the domain name, question mark, salary equal to 20, comma 30,000, between 20,000 to 30,000, ampersand, salary equal to between 30,000 to 40,000. So if there are multiple query parameters, if you want to input in the URL, then we need to make use of this ampersand. So this is all about the query parameter. And why this is used? To uniquely identify the resource that you are looking for in that particular application. Okay, so this is all about the query parameter. So till now, what we have understood, in order to fetch any particular resource or in order to create any particular resource, we need to go to that particular domain, and we need to identify where exactly we need to create the resource, and we need to fill in the details and hit the request to the server. Same way, if we want to uniquely identify a resource and fetch it, we can come up with something called as query parameter appended along with the URL. Okay. Now comes a very, very important topic, that is HTTP status codes. Okay. So now I'll ask you, till now you understood how the API testing works, right? We need to have something called as HTTP methods, right? And we need to have something called as URL. We need to have something called as request body or the payload, right? Now I'll ask you, if you have all these details, you will send the request and you'll get the response. How come you will say whatever the request that you have got is a valid request? How come you will identify that?
Based on the status codes.
Yeah, based on the status code. Okay. Then
If you get 200 means it's success.
so if we get 200 means it is success. Okay, great. Any other guy? Who was that who answered this?
Ajit.
Okay, nice. If we get apart from 200, what it is?
It could be client error or it could be server error.
Wonderful. It can be a client error or it can be a server error, right? Okay. So somebody has asked me what is the difference between a create and a post. See, create and post are same. Okay. Create is a normal term which is used in order to create some resource. Okay. But in API terms, okay, in API terms, in order to create any particular resource, we use the term called as post. So post does the same job of create. I hope it is clear, Nandini.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, fine. Now let's come back to the presentation. So as you people told, yeah, I totally agree. We'll get some status code. Based on the status code, we can understand, okay, yeah, this is a correct response. But status code will come. But what if the response that you have received is incorrect? How will you validate it? Right? So the response that you have received, in order to validate whether you have received a valid response or a correct response, what you can do is you can write a SQL query to query the database and check the response of that SQL query is matching with the API response. If it is matching, whatever the response that is given by the API, yeah, it is absolutely right. If it is not matching, database is giving some different response, and your API is giving some different response, there might be something wrong. Clear? Why I am telling you this is database will always give you the latest value, but API will give you the cached value. Able to link it now? Suppose imagine the cacheable data is not yet expired. If you are hitting the API, it will not hit the server. It will fetch the data from the local machine. And in the server, the data is changed by this time. Getting the point?
Yes, yes.
Right? So, in order to validate whatever the response that is given by API is correct or not, we need to query the database, match the response given by the API, and then only confirm. API will give 200, okay, but the value in the response is not the actual value that is there in the database. Clear? So this is how we can purely verify the data that we have received through the API response. And HTTP status codes are a 3-digit codes most often used to indicate whether a HTTP request has been completed. And these status codes can be divided into 5 different blocks. Okay. The pretty first block is informational block, which is from 100 to 199. In my entire experience or in my tenure, I have never seen or never used this particular informational status code. Okay. Or basically, I have never used this for testing purpose. But I have used status codes between 200 to 299, which is a success response, and I have seen and used between 300 to 399, which is redirectional purpose, and I have seen between 400 to 499, which is a client side errors, and I have seen between 500 to 599, which are server side errors. If the codes come within this range, you can easily say that there is an issue in the server if the error status codes are between 500 and 599. If the error status codes are between 400 to 499, don't directly go and report it to the developer. Why? Because the error is from client side. There is a chances that you have made some mistake in your request. So cross verify it and then only report it to the developer. And there is a website wherein they have added a redirection. Suppose, for example, if you are going to yahoo.com, they have redirected it to yahoo.fidelity.com. Now it should redirect to yahoo.fidelity.com. Why? Because redirection has happened. Then those particular URLs should fall under the status codes between 300 to 399. And if it is success, it should fall under 200 to 299. And even though if it is success, as I suggested you, always cross verify it with the database. And suppose you do not have access to the database and company has restrictions to give access to the database to the employees or to the test engineers, no other go. Just go with the response that you have received through the API and tell them, yeah, this is working as expected. Why? Because it is giving me the expected status code and it is giving me the response, whatever that I'm looking for. I hope this is clear. What are the different status codes? Now we'll go one step ahead and understand the different status codes on a briefer note. You see, request used and the response status codes. I have not come up with any sort of status codes which are between 100 to 199 because I don't want it. And I have never encountered it also. But these are the status codes which I will definitely encounter during my API testing. So I have selected such kind of status codes which you might encounter during your API testing, and these are the predominantly encountered status codes that I have come up with in this list. So if it is a 200 success or 200 okay, which means whatever the data that you're trying to fetch, you have received it and the status code is 200 okay. And coming to the next one, you're trying to create a data using the post HTTP method and you receive 201 created as the response status code, then the data is created properly. And If it is a request that you are sending wherein that request should be accepted, then you will receive 202 accepted. And if it is a request wherein you are trying to delete a data, if you are hitting a delete method, then you should receive 204 no content. After deleting, that content is no more available. Okay. And coming to 300 redirections. If you receive 300, then there are multiple choices and you need to come up with a particular choice. And if you receive 301 as a status code, which means whatever the URL that you have provided, it's moved permanently to a different URL. And if you just 304, then it is not modified. It is still the same. Now, coming to client-side errors. If you receive 400 bad requests, which means you need to understand whatever the request that you have created, right? There is some mistake in that request. That is the reason you'll get bad request. And if you receive 401 unauthorized, you are not providing appropriate credentials and you are not an authorized person. That is the meaning of 401 unauthorized. Now, coming to 403 forbidden. What is this is one of the very important question with respect to the interview perspective of API. Okay. People will definitely ask what is the difference between 401 and 403. As you understood, 401 is unauthorized and 403 is forbidden. What is the difference between unauthorized and forbidden? You have not logged into the application itself. That is 401. 403 is something which you have logged into the application, but you do not have enough permission to access that particular resource. Then you will get 403 forbidden. And coming to next one, 404 not found. Whatever the URL that you have sent, that URL itself is not found. And next one, 405 method not allowed. Instead of using a post method, you are using get method. That is when you will encounter this kind of status codes. 405 method not allowed. Now coming to 500 series, which is a server side error. If you encounter any of the server side errors, immediately report the issue to the developers. Let them fix it. Okay. So 500 internal server error. When we will encounter this 500 internal server error? See, developers would have written some code. And whenever they are writing some code, which means that there would be certain exceptions that will encounter, developers will encounter, and developers have not select whatever the exceptions that is encountered, they have not handled it properly, or the exception itself is not handled. Then what will happen? Server doesn't know what to do or what to process. At that point of time, it will throw 500 internal server error. And suppose in case if you're trying to access a particular resource which is not at all implemented, then you will receive 501 not implemented. And if the request goes and hits a different gateway, then you will receive 502 bad gateway. And if the service itself is not available, which you're trying to access, then you'll get 503 service unavailable. You remember the microservices concept, student microservice, courses microservice, and payment microservice. Now imagine student microservice is not working properly, the service is down. If you try to access the student microservice or student module, it will simply throw 503 service unavailable. Why? Because the service is down. So these are the predominantly used status codes that you might get in the API testing. Okay, so let me go further. Okay, the next concept is cookies. Okay, since it is I think it's not a tea time, I think it is a dinner time already, I believe. Okay, so now I have a question for you people. Okay, if I log into any particular application, okay, what I will do in order to log in, I will provide my username, I'll provide my password, right? And I'll click on login button. Now, can somebody tell me what will happen now? once after I click on login button? This question is more of a for experienced people. Even freshers can try it. I'm not saying you people cannot try it. What will happen once after I provide my username, password, and click on login button?
It will redirect to home page, application home page.
Okay. Yeah, definitely it will redirect to home page. That I agree. But internally in the back end, what will happen? Can anybody tell me?
It will validate your credentials.
Okay, where the
Authentication.
credentials? Okay, where the credentials will be validated?
Previously, we'll be providing the credentials, right, sir? By using the post method. Like we'll be providing the username and password, everything we have been created already. So based upon that, it will check whether we are valid user or not. So based upon that, it will provide us for the login opportunity. Like we'll be logged in successfully.
Okay. Yeah. My question is like, where exactly the username and password will be validated?
Database.
Okay, in the database. Okay, fine. And then what will happen once once the username is validated? It will let me in.
Response.
Let me in.
Response.
Okay. Okay. Fine. I appreciate your answers, guys. Okay. But let me tell you in the backend what exactly will happen. Whatever that you people told, yeah, it's correct. I'm not saying wrong or I'm not denying it. Okay. But I want to still give you more information regarding the same. What will happen in that case is once you provide username and password and click on login button, the request, as somebody told, the post request will go to the server. Okay. And the server will check the database whether this particular username and password is correct or this particular user is present. And if user is present, the password that he provided is correct. Okay. Now what will happen? The server will send the response, hey, the username and password is correct. You can provide him access to the homepage. But still in the background, what will happen? There would be a session that would be created for that user. And this session is a combination of letters and numbers, okay, which will be stored as a cookies in your browser. Clear? These are all the things that will happen in the background. Have you people ever encountered if you have logged into a banking application and if you're not active in that application for 5 to 10 minutes, and if you come and try to access the banking application again, have you ever encountered session expired message?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Right. So why that session expired will happen? Because the cookie that got created, that cookie is expired. So this cookie is a user related information that gets saved in your browser. And that information, if it is expired, then it will simply throw session expired. Clear what exactly is a cookie? So not only this is the functionality of a cookie. The functionality of cookie is select more than this. What and all the cookie does, we'll understand. So a cookie is a piece of information that a website puts on the user's computer, right? And cookies store limited information on the web browser. So in your web browser, there is a section called as cookies. That is where all the cookies get stored. Okay. And what is the purpose of these cookies? The purpose of these cookies is to keep the user session alive for the duration, whatever that session should be alive. Okay. And cookies are, say, like, it is a kind of personalization, right? So whatever the website remember regarding the user preferences, have you people encountered this thing, right? So suppose imagine you are going to a shopping website and you search for a product, for example shoes, okay, and you did not purchase it. You'll come back, and if you try to access some website, that website will automatically give you the advertisement of shoes. Have you ever noticed that?
Yes, sir.
right? So what is the funda behind that? The cookies are also used for tracking purpose. Okay, so whatever the action that you perform or whichever website that you visit, every information will be remembered by cookies, and these cookies are responsible to provide you the advertisement based on your search preferences. So cookies are used for tracking purpose, cookies are used for user session, right? And there are types of cookies, right? One is a magic cookie and a HTTP cookie. So this magic cookie is something which is used in the old computing terms. Okay, see, cookies are basically used to store the information of whatever the preferences of your browsing. Okay, and this HTTP cookie is a extension of this magic cookie, which is built to capture all your interests of browsing. Okay, and there are types of HTTP cookies. One is a session cookie, another one is a persistent cookie. Session cookies are a short life cookies. Okay, like our banking application. If you are inactive in the banking application, within 5 minutes it will kick you out and it will say session expand. But persistent cookies are kind of cookies which will be alive for multiple days. So if somebody here is a working professional, right? If you log into any particular tools in your organization, you will be logged in for a week or for a month, right? So such kind of cookies are a persistent cookie which will keep the session active for days together or even a month. And once it crosses that particular time, it will throw the session expired. Okay, and as I already told you, it is used to save the authentication related information, and it will save in the form of alphabets and numbers or string and numbers. Okay, and it is also used for tracking purpose. Whatever the site that you visit or whatever the search that you make, everything will be stored in the form of cookies, and it will track each and every moment of yours. Okay, now coming to the next slide, there is something called as third party cookies. Third party cookies, as in, I gave you that example, right? In Flipkart application, you have searched for a product, but now you are coming to google.com. In google.com, you are seeing the advertisement of whatever that you searched in Flipkart. There is no way relation to the Flipkart and google.com application, but there is a relationship of third party cookies. A third party cookie which will monitor your browsing, whichever browser that whichever application or whichever website that you are in, it will monitor that, and it will make sure that you are interested in this, and such kind of advertisements will be posted in whichever application that you are browsing. Okay, so this is a third party cookie. Third party cookie as in the website that you are browsing, and the third party cookie which is accessing your website details. Okay, there is no way relation between each other, but still it will track you. Okay, now there is something called a zombie cookie. Okay, what is this zombie cookie? Zombie cookies are also third party cookies, but what will happen? This will permanently get installed on the user computer. And once this zombie cookie is installed on your user computer, it was really very difficult to uninstall or remove it from your computer. And it works on the basis of data stored in the Adobe Flash storage bin. So what is this Adobe Flash storage bin? If in any website, if any video has to be played, then it will play based on the Adobe Flash player. Okay, and the zombie cookies are also known as flash cookies. Okay, but removing the zombie cookies is really very difficult from your browser. Okay, now a question might arise in your mind. Whatever that we browse, everything is captured through cookie. What are you saying? Which means I am getting tracked. Obviously, you are getting tracked. Okay, but cookies are not at all harmful. Why it is not at all harmful? we cannot change or we cannot update any cookies. Okay, so the data in the cookie is not changed or it cannot be changed. That is the reason it is not harmful, or there is no question about the viruses getting attacked or any malware attacking our system. Okay, so this is all about cookies. Okay, now coming to the next concept, that is cache concept, which I have explained you people better in the previous slides, where we understood the cacheable concept of RESTful principles. Okay, but still I'll tell you, cache is a concept of storing a particular data in your local machine for a certain duration of time, and whenever you try to access the same resource, the resource is fetched from the local machine. The request will not hit the server. But you did not know what are the different types of cache that is available. So there are different types of cache. Okay, one is web browser cache. So whatever the cached data, okay, that particular data will come and sit in the cache section of the web browser. Okay, and whenever you try to access the same resource, then the data would be fetched from the browser cached data section. And coming to proxy caching, you understood the layer system, right? So in layer system, there is something called as proxy server. So the data would be cached in the proxy layer or in the proxy server. Whenever you try to access the same data again, the request will hit the proxy server and the data would be fetched from the proxy server, and it will not hit the main server. So what do you understand by this? With this cache concept, the performance of the APIs are increased and the scalability of the APIs are increased. Now, same way, there is something called as gateway cache. Okay, so the data would be cached in the gateway and it would be fetched through the reverse proxy method from the gateway, and the data would be shared with you. Again, the request will not hit the main server. The time is saved over here. And there is next thing called as application cache. So whatever the data that is cached in the application, in the client application, okay, and whenever you hit the same request next time, the cache data from the application would be displayed in front of you. And we can even cache the data in the server level as well. So if the data is cached in the server level, each and every time the request is sent, it will hit the server and the cache data will be displayed for you. So these are the different types of cache that is available in the API concept. Now, let's move further. Now, you people have understood better what is this API, how does it work, and why APIs, etc. But in order to test it, we need to have certain tools in order to test the API, right? So we will understand what are these particular tools which are used to test the APIs. Clear? So anybody here in this group have used API testing tools? Anybody? Session is universal for all the application, or it is implemented based on any requirement? Yeah, actually, the user sessions is so like I can say it is implemented based on the requirement. Okay, and coming to next question is, allowing or rejecting cookies when visiting a new website affect the experience of the particular site is harmful in any way? See, it is not harmful in any way. Okay, if you allow the cookies, what will happen is the cookies will store the information of your navigations, and for the next time whenever you try to access the same resource, it will be navigating little faster. but it is not harmful in any way. If you deny it, okay, there will be milliseconds of lag. Why? Because you wouldn't have saved that cookie or allowed that cookie to capture that information of whatever the things that you are navigating, right? So each and every time when you navigate, it would be kind of a fresh navigation for the system. That is the difference between allowing and not allowing. Clear?
Thanks.
Yes, I was asking something. Great. Anybody here who has used Postman tool for API testing, or you people have never used Postman tool, or you have never done a API testing before? I think I'm audible, guys. Okay, yeah, I can see chats. Yeah, used Postman for testing. Great, nice to know. Stop sharing the screen. Okay, can you explain the difference between create and post? Acha, sorry, my bad. I'm going through older post. Used Postman for testing. Nandini. Okay, great. Never done, never ever. Okay, never done. Fine, not at all an issue. Um, what I have planned here is I will just walk you people through what are the tools that is used in order to perform API testing. Okay, and also I have a plan to showcase or show you people with certain simple examples on how the post request work and how the get request work and how the update and delete request works. So let me quickly navigate you people through what are the predominantly used manual API testing tools. Postman is used for manual testing. Okay, using Postman, we can test both SOAP web services as well as REST web services. And there is a SOAP UI, which is used to test only the SOAP web services. There is a Swagger tool, which can be used to test the APIs. And there is an Insomnia, which is used to test the APIs. And we can perform manual testing using these tools. And we can perform API automation testing using these below tools. Postman can be used to perform automation testing of the APIs, wherein we should know JavaScript for this. And rest assured is a tool which is used to do the API automation, for which the prerequisite is Java. And we can use REST client to test the to automate the APIs, for which the prerequisite is Python. And there is a Karate DSL. Okay, don't think that we will be fighting among the colleagues here if we use Karate DSL. The tool name is Karate DSL. Okay, and the symbol also states it's somewhat like fighting between the colleagues. Okay, so Karate DSL, basically it is a less code or low code automation API automation tool. We can do UI automation as well, but which is not predominantly used for UI automation, but it is predominantly used for API automation. Okay, and it works in the form of a behavioral data driven framework. Okay, if you know 10 to 15 percentage of coding of Java, that is more than sufficient to automate any kind of APIs or any kind of web services using Karate DSL. Okay, and coming to the next section, the popular and widely used API tools for manual API testing. Okay, so Postman is the highly used and most popular tool to test the APIs. And SOAP UI, and SOAP UI is a moderate to high. Why I am saying it is a legacy web service, okay, wherein most of the legacy systems are using this SOAP web services. So still it is in use, okay, but there is no improvements that is developed on SOAP UI, but it is still in use. And Swagger, it is a moderate use, and Insomnia, it is a moderate use. So if you ask me why I asked you that particular question, have you people ever used Postman tool or any API tools? The reason behind that is, when I started this session, right? If you want to stick on to this industry for a longer run, you need to keep upgrading yourself, and you need to keep upgrading the tools that you are using in the industry. Clear? So, in order to portray yourself that you know API testing and you perform API testing in your tenure of experience, okay, there should be certain tools that should be mentioned in your profile or in your resume stating that you have used this tool, which will in turn give an idea to the recruiter. Okay, this person has done this particular testing, API testing, using these tools. And having a better knowledge of tools will give you a greater opportunities of standing apart from all the candidates, and which will fetch you the opportunity to select, crack any sort of interviews and fetch the job opportunities. Okay, as I told, industry is changing, we should also change according to the industry. All right, so that is the whole reason we all are here in this particular workshop. All right, now let me go to next slide. Why Postman? So in order to test APIs, okay, we need to use a particular tool to test the API. Okay, if you don't use any tools, it is quite difficult to test the API which is not pushed to any particular environment. But there is another way of testing the API, which I will show you now. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll take this example itself. So I'll just say inspect, and I'll go to the network option, and I'll just refresh this page. Okay, so whatever that you are seeing over here, the things that is loading over here, right? These all are the APIs. And if I go over here and if I go to this header, you see the status code is 200. Okay, right? And what is the request method? It is get. And what is the response body, or what is the response that we have got, and what is the headers of the response, and what is the request headers? All those information we can see it over here in this is called as a developer tools option. It is available in all the browsers. Okay, if you don't want to use any tools and if you want to test an API, that particular API has to be available in the production environment, or it has to be available in any particular environment, so that you can test that particular APIs using this developer tools option. You see, we can see the status codes, and come over here again, a status code, the request is this, and there is a create. See, for create, the request method is post and the status code is 200. Okay, right? So with this we can see all the information, and we can verify all the data whatever that we have received. So if you want to see the response, this is the response. If you want to see the payload, you can go over here and check what is the payload that we have sent. And to see whatever the request that it consists of, everything can be select verified over here. This is the request URL, this is the HTTP method, this is status code for this request, this is the response headers, and this is the request headers. Okay, and this is the payload, and this is the response that we have received. Okay, everything can be verified from here as well. Clear? So this way we can verify the APIs. All right, and apart from this way, the next way is using the tools. Okay, so that is the reason we are in here in this tool called as Why Postman. Why Postman? The reason behind why Postman is the UI of the Postman is very user friendly. Okay, we can understand it in simple terms. We can easily understand the Postman tool, and we can start testing the APIs. Okay, and I told you Postman tool is also used for API automation as well. Okay, so we can automate the APIs using Postman tool, but the thing is, the prerequisite is you should know JavaScript as the language. Okay, even though if you don't know the JavaScript as a language, there is one small tweak in Postman tool where they have readily provided code snippets of JavaScript, okay, in Postman tool, which can be made use of, and the automation can be performed in Postman tool. So there are very lots and lots of advantages in Postman tool. That is the reason we can make use of Postman tool, and Postman tool is the predominantly used tool to test any particular API. It has hell lot of options, and it is a standout tool when compared with any other API testing tools. Okay, and it has a community which is ready to support you if you are facing any issues with the Postman tool. But all you need to do is you should be a subscribe member for Postman. Okay, next thing. Okay, so now let us go ahead and see a demo how exactly the Postman tool looks like and what exactly is a Postman. Okay, so I will tell you, like, in Google you can just plainly go to I'll show you this, like how we can download the Postman. Okay, you can just mention Postman download. Okay, you see the pretty first application that comes is www.postman.com/downloads. Just go over here. Okay, and you can download it. If it is a Windows 64-bit operating system, use this, and um, if it is Mac, for Mac also they would have, see, if it's a Mac, they have given the command on how to install on Mac. Okay, and if it's a Linux system, on how to install the Postman in Linux system. Okay, and there is an advanced version of Postman, that is Postman Canary, which is something similar to this Postman itself. And also you can install the Postman through a command line argument, that also they have given in the document. But as of now, I have installed the Postman tool in my machine, so I'm not going to download it and show it to you people, but you can go to postman.com/downloads, which will give you the option to download the Postman, and you can start using it. Now I have already installed the Postman and I have logged into the Postman. So what will happen once you download and install the Postman, it will ask you to create an account. You can create an account using your email address. Okay, and once you create an account using your email address, you can log into the Postman tool. That's it. It is that easy. Now what I'll do, I'll show you few of the examples, okay, wherein how we can create a post request, get request, or update and delete any particular data or resources. Let us quickly do that. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just create one collection. This is a practice collection. Okay, over here I'll just create one folder, or I'll create one new collection itself. So what is a collection? If you ask me, a collection is a uh, set of requests. Okay, a set of requests is known as a collection. So what I'll do, I'll create a new collection and I'll name that collection as like I'll say workshop Postman. Okay, so whatever that I'm showing you people today, it is so like on a briefer note, since it is a workshop, not a detailed session. Okay, if you want to understand Postman tool in detail, okay, and how it works, then we have a separate sessions for that, wherein you can join those sessions and you can master the Postman tool. Okay. I think somebody is unmuted. Can you please mute? Hello.
Sorry.
So somebody was unmuted. Have you muted yourself?
Yes, sir. It was me. I have muted again. Sorry for that.
No, not an issue. Okay, fine. Thank you. Okay, so let's come back. All right. So now under this collection, I told you collection is a set of requests. Okay, under workshop Postman, I have created a folder. We can add a folder, we can add a request, etc. So now I have added a folder. What I will do, I will add all the post requests into this folder. So what I am trying to do here is I am just trying to keep the things easy and understandable if someone else comes and access this particular collection. Okay, I'll say rename and I'll say the folder name as post. So why post? Because I will be adding all the post requests under this. Okay, it depends on you, however you want to make the folder structure. Okay, or it depends on the requirement basically. Okay, I'll say create user. Okay, so for this particular request, I'm going to use a website, a practice API website. Okay, which is reqres.in, requestresponse.in. This is a website or a list of APIs which can be used for practice purpose. Okay, and for working professionals, if you have say like if you are having access to the APIs of the application that you are working, you can make use of Postman tool and you can try to practice. Okay, so now if I come over here, see there is a post request called as create. So if I click on this, this is giving me the detail. Okay, this is the endpoint /API/users, and this is the payload that I need to send. Okay, along with this domain, and once I hit this request, it should create this particular user by name Morphosis and the job as leader, and the ID should be generated and the created at time should be displayed. So this is the response that we are expecting, and with this status code as 201. So what I will do, I'll quickly copy this domain name, that is URL, and I will copy the endpoint. Okay, what is the endpoint? The endpoint is something which has to be appended along with the domain name. So I'm appending that endpoint. So there are 2 slashes, it should be 1 slash. Okay, and what is this request? This request is a post request. Why? Because I'm trying to create a data. Okay, now if you see here, there is a section called as headers. This is known as request headers. Okay, so what is this request headers? It consists of something called as a Postman token, which is a hidden. Okay, and what is the content? No, and host is also hidden. What is the user agent? I am trying to hit this request using Postman. So user agent is Postman. And what type of data it should accept? As of now, it is showing /star. Okay, but once I provide the body, then later we'll see what kind of select body it is accepting. Okay, now I told you if it is a post request, we need to come up with a payload or a request body. Where we can provide that payload or a request body? We can provide that payload or a request body under the section called as body in Postman. So what I'll do, I'll go back to the website. I'll copy this particular request body. Okay, I'll come back to Postman and I will select something called as raw. Okay, if I select raw, whatever the request body that I have as of now is a JSON request body. Why I'm saying it is a JSON request body? Because JSON starts with a curly brace and ends with a curly brace. If it is a XML, it starts with lesser than symbol and ends with greater than symbol. Something similar to HTML. Okay, so since it's a curly braces, this is a JSON request body. So what I'll do, I'll just provide the request body over here. Okay, now my request is created. So in order to create a post request, what all the things that is required? I need to come up with the HTTP method. Okay, and I need to come up with the URL along with the endpoint. Okay, and if any authorization is required, I can come up with the authorization from here. Okay, and if any payload is required, I can provide the payload in the body section under raw, where I can select the type of payload that I'm sending. If it is JavaScript, I can select JavaScript. If it is a plain text, I can select plain text, JSON or HTML or XML. Whatever type of request body you're sending, you need to select appropriate request body and you can send it. Now what I will do, I'll just click on save so that the request gets saved. And now if I hit send, what should happen? It should give me a status code 201 and it should create this particular data in the database. Okay, so now let me come back and I'll say send. What happened? Yeah, you see, I have hit this request. Now I have got the response. So from this particular space to above, whatever that you see, it is a request related information. And from this space to the below, whatever that you see, it is response related information. So we have a request headers also. Okay, and we have response headers also. Okay, and we have something called as cookies. Suppose if it is using any cookies, that cookies related information will be available over here. So we can verify cookies as well, right? We can verify the response body. So now, as per our example, we should get 201 status code and the user should be created, job should be leader, ID should be created, and created at time should be created. So if you see here with the name, whatever the body that I have sent with the name Morphosis and the job as leader and ID as 629 and created at time is 23rd 3 2024 with this time frame. Now suppose imagine instead of Morphosis I'll say Vikram. Send it. You see, a new resources is created. New resource is created with the name Vikram and job as leader. ID is this, created at time is this. So this is how the post request is created. For post, we need to come up with a request body. Now, let us create one get request. So what I'll do, I will create a get request by creating a folder. Oh, okay, I have created a request. So I'll just delete this request because I need to create a folder. And then within that folder, I want to come up with the get request. Add folder, and I will say the name of the folder as get. Okay, and I will create a request. I can click on add a request from here, or I can click on add request from here also. This is a ellipsis, 3 dots, wherein I'll get more options from here. So what I'll do, I'll click on add request. Now, if you notice, whenever we add a request, by default, the method that gets selected is get. We need to make sure that we'll update this method. Now, let me come back to the website and see, is there any get method? The pretty first one is a get method. Okay, so I'll select this method. Okay, what I am trying to do here is the endpoint says I need to go to /API/users and a query param is provided wherein page equal to 2. In page 2, whatever the user information is there, all those user information should be displayed. And this is the outcome or the response. So let me quickly create this request. What I'll do, I'll copy the domain. I'll paste the domain here and I'll copy the endpoint. What happened? Okay, it's not letting me copy from there. So what I'll do, I'll copy it from here /API/. Okay, now I'll paste it here. Okay, now can you people tell me, do I need request body?
No.
Not at all.
Okay, why? Because it is a get request. Okay, and can you people tell me what is this after question mark? Page equal to 2.
Query parameter.
Querying the page to
It's a query parameter.
Query parameter.
Right, great. Okay, and you can see the query parameters over here. It is mentioned as query parameter. The key is page and the value is 2. Okay, now I'll hit send. You see, I have received the data, and I have received the data from ID 7 to ID 12. Now, what if I make this page equal to 1? Okay, and if I hit this, you see, I'm getting the data from page 1, sorry, from ID 1 till ID 6. Clear? So, whatever the value that you change in the query parameter, according to that, the response also will change. So, this is how the get request will work. So, I'll say get users.
What we'll do if we do the same use the same URL for post?
Okay, so you want to see what will happen for post.
Yes.
So I have changed it to post and I am sending this. You see what is happening. I am not sending any body, right? It is plainly creating a ID with the created at, but it does not have any name. It does not have any job role. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. So this is not the expected one. Correct. 201 created is coming, but there is no name of the user or name of the employee. There is no role of the employee. Clear? But actually speaking, it should have given us 405 method not allowed. But since this is a practice API, right? They have not written such conditions. Clear? Okay. Now let's come back and see if we have any request for update. Okay. So there is a request for update. And what we are doing, so whatever the role that we created as morphosis, right? For this morphosis, the role that we created was leader. Now instead of leader, it should get updated as Xeon resident. Okay, and this is the user ID, for example. Now what I'll do, I'll quickly create a request of put. Okay, so come over here, create a folder, and I'll say the folder name as put, and I'll add a request. Okay, and as I told you, whenever I create a request, it will be in the get HTTP method, but I'll say update user as the request name, and I will say put method, and I will come up with the URL. Okay, I'll come up with the endpoint. Okay, now since it's a put request, I need to come up with a body, and the body is provided in the document or in the API contract. I'll say body, and it is raw, and it is a JSON format, and I'll paste it here. Okay, now I'll say this request. And since it is an update, what should happen? It should update the job from leader to Xeon resident, and updated at time is also available, and for which particular user this is updated, and this number 2 is the user ID basically. So we can, in order to update, we can use this put request. Now let me quickly come back and I'll see in case if there is any delete request. Yeah, there is a delete request. Okay, and I'm trying to delete the user with ID 2. Okay, let me quickly create a folder for delete request. See, you need not create a folder for everything. I just wanted to show it in a systematic format, so I am doing this. But you can have the request created without creating a folder as well. Okay, and I'll add a request, and I will update, select delete user, and I'll update the request to delete, and I'll come up with the domain name, and I'll come up with the endpoint. Okay, and since it's a delete request, request body is not required. Why? Because in the URL itself I have provided that employee ID with ID2 should be deleted. Okay, so now I'll save this request and I will send this. You see, the status code is 204 no content. If I come back to the API document, the response should be 204 no content, and there should be no response that should be displayed. Same way, there is no response that is displayed. Status is 204 no content. So basically what will happen here is, whenever you are performing API testing, you would receive this kind of document, which is called as a API contract document. And that API contract document will have all the details that is required. Okay, looking into this API contract document, you need to create the request in the Postman and you should be testing it. So this is how we will be creating the requests using Postman tool. Okay, so if you want to understand more on Postman tool, we'll have a different sessions, okay, wherein we will be training you people on in-depth concepts of Postman tool, which you can make use of it. Okay, now let's come back. Okay, so we understood on a brief demo on Postman tool. The next thing is question and answer session. So now you people have some time. You can ask me the questions that you have on whatever the workshop that I have conducted for you people. So if you have any doubts, guys, please do ask me. I'll be very glad to clarify the doubts that you have.
Vikram, there are some questions in the chat box. If you just scroll up, yeah, a little bit down. Down. Yeah.
Can you explain? Yeah,
Apart
I
from
have
that,
all this. Okay.
yeah.
Is there a user session is universal for all the application? Yeah, I have answered this. Right, Nandini? So it depends on the requirement, like on how the cookies has to be handled. Okay, and it is completely a backend requirement. Based on the backend requirement, the cookies will be handled as per the application. Okay. Yeah, and is allowing or rejecting cookies when, yeah, I think I have answered this, Rohit, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Used Postman for testing, never done, never done, never done. Yeah, I think I have answered it by going through the chat on timely manner. Yes. Okay. Now, if you have any other doubts, guys, this is the time. You can ask me. Okay. Any suggestions on particular site to track the API and Postman interview? Any suggestions on a particular site? Okay. Okay, not to track the crack. Okay, great. Fine. See, to crack an API interview, right? So you need to first understand the in-depth of how the APIs work. Okay, and you need to be in a position to analyze. Okay, if any API is failing, you should be in a position to analyze why that API is failing. Okay, and what might be the reason behind it. Okay, if you are in that position, then you can crack any API related interviews. Okay, but for that you should have a in-depth knowledge, and that is the reason you are here, and we people are here to help you guys for the same. Okay, What I would suggest you is, you people can contact us at any point of time, okay, wherein we have a team of expertise who can help you people in cracking any particular interview. And also, along with that, I would suggest you uh, to attend the sessions wherein we will go in depth and teach you the concepts, wherein you will be in a position to debug the issues that you face while performing API testing. And you will understand in the upcoming sessions, upcoming slides. I have another 2 to 3 slides which I'll have to walk you people through. So if you have any questions, quickly ask me, so that okay, why are organizations migrating web services from SOAP to REST? Yeah, see, SOAP supports the communication only through XML, okay, but whereas REST supports XML, HTML, JavaScript, plain text, etc. So the options are multiple when you compare SOAP with REST. I hope it is clear, Arun. Okay,
Yes,
so if yeah, if any queries, you can email to, yeah, yes, as you see, you can make a note of this email. Okay, whatever queries that you have, we can say like give you the answers for that. Okay, and can you name the different types of API testing? See, different types of API testing. If you ask me types of API testing, we can manually test the APIs, and there is another way is we can automate it and test it. And while doing API testing, we can perform performance testing, okay, and we can perform security testing, okay, uh, and also we can perform reliability testing, like or also we can perform something called as yeah, how much time that falls under performance itself, or even that is called as a latency testing. Okay, so these are the different types of testing that you can perform while doing API testing. I hope it is clear, Bharti. Okay, and the next question, can we get this PPT or material recorded session? Yes, yes, Satyaki, definitely you will get this recorded session. Okay, and can you please share the PPT which you have presented? Yeah, so you will be getting the recorded session. So through that recorded session, you can go through this particular PPT, Rekha. Okay.
Hi, Vikram. I have one question.
Mm-hmm,
Can
yes.
I ask? Myself, Ajit, just I'm asking about that. If people are going to start the new automation API, that any sessions, I want to join that.
Yes, Ajit, definitely we have plans for that. Okay, we will be performing the workshops on API automation as well. And if you are really interested, we have select academics kind of thing where you, if you want to go in depth and understand and excel yourself as a automation test engineer in terms of API or in terms of APM or Selenium, we do have a specific designed academics for the same. Okay, you can join that and you can excel yourself as a automation test engineer.
Because I want to join the API automation because most of the requirement they are asking both like
Yes,
API
yes, as well as UI.
automation.
Definitely.
Yeah,
You,
UI, like,
yeah.
whichever requirement I am getting, like that requirement they have mentioned clearly that. So that's what I ask.
Yes, yes, you are absolutely right. The industry is expecting the same. That is what I initially started with, right? So the industry's expectation is changing day by day. So we are also designing our workshops and the academics based on the industry standards or what is the industry is expecting. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sure. So quickly, let me move on to the next slides. All right, so that I can wind up the session because it is almost the time that we have requested from you people. So now, uh, live feedback. I want to hear from you people. Like, how did you like the session? Was it say like helpful, or is there any feedback or suggestion in what way we can improve our sessions? So I want to hear it from you people. So you can come on camera, you can explain, or you can give your feedback, or uh, if you don't want to really come on camera, that is also fine, but your feedback is really very important to us, which will take us to the next step on improvising the things. Okay.
I give my
Yes,
feedback.
that's good. Okay.
It was overall good session actually, but if you want to learn the API, we should know the in depth that is required actually. What I felt
Yes,
that
yes.
whatever you taught that everything was fine, but you should know more than that. So then we can crack the an interview like for the API and
Exactly. I totally agree with you, Ajit. But yeah, this is a workshop, right? So that is the reason. On a briefer note, I wanted to tell you what exactly is the problems that candidates are facing in terms of cracking the interviews. Okay. On a nutshell, I wanted to tell you people the problem that the candidates are facing to shape up their career. Okay. And what exactly they should be doing in order to make sure that they can stick on to this industry for next decade. Okay, I'll take that feedback, and even I have a solution for that in the upcoming couple of slides. Okay, so uh, let me hear the feedback from others, and then I'll move on. Quickly move on to the other slides, which will be
thank you.
definitely, yeah, on the question whatever that you have asked me. Okay, that's great to
Hi
know.
guys, if you speak and explain, it will be better impact, right, than the chat messages. So why you want to give an answer, right? So it's better. Please provide us in the voice note, right? It will be very good for us.
Hi, sir. This is Pramod. So I have gone through many of the YouTube videos and different sessions so far related to this API and Postman. But I found this live session was very helpful because it was more than what I was expecting and what I've learned from the YouTube. It was more informative for me, sir, from this session.
Okay, that's wonderful to know, Pramod. Like, yeah. So to add up to your point, right? Like this, there are many websites which provide you the materials to learn, like YouTube or Udemy, etc. Right? Whatever that they give you is basic stuff. Okay, which
Yes.
will not help you to crack any particular interview. That thing I can say for sure. Okay, but this is just a workshop that I have conducted. Okay,
Yes, sir.
but we have academics that is prepared in such a way that wherein you can understand in depth each and every concept and how you can use it in your real time testing.
Yes, sir. Practical
Okay,
sessions will be more helpful than the theoretical
theoretical
part so
sessions.
far. Yes, sir.
Yes, definitely. We will do that. Not at all an issue. We can come up with more practical sessions, and wherein you can utilize it and crack difficult interviews in very good companies.
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fine.
Yeah.
If anybody
Hi,
else wants
hi,
to go,
Vikram.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
hi, Vikram. Rekha here. Like,
Yeah. Hi. Hi.
I have attended so many workshops like before. So this is very interactive and very useful. And
Mhm.
also, like in beginning, I thought the workshop is like just the basics you will tell. After once I attended this presentation of yours, it's very interactive and in depth. You have explained the API testing. It's very good.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback, Rekha.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And also one thing, when we can expect advanced level of API testing workshops, like anything in detail or.
Yeah, we are planning up for the such kind of workshops.
Okay.
I have certain information regarding the same in the upcoming slides. So I'll walk you through, and then after that we can wind up the session. Yeah.
Sure. Can you share the slide which you have given the presentation through the Google Drive? Is that possible?
Yes, definitely. We are going to share with each and every one of you who have registered for this workshop. Google Drive will be shared, and you can make use of it for sure.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much for your feedback. Okay, I do really appreciate
Hi,
it.
Vikram.
Yes, Prajwal.
Yeah, it was a wonderful session actually. Got depth knowledge, was very interactive, and especially the corner things whichever you have explained. No, it's too good actually with respect to different types and also whatever like URL, those things with real time examples. That was very helpful.
Okay, great to know that, Prajwal.
Thank you very much for an interactive and a wonderful session.
Thank you. Good to hear that. Yeah.
Hi Vikram, Vinay here.
Yeah, hi Vinay.
So it was very helpful. So we can know the basic and everything you have explained easily. So it was very helpful. So we can attend the further session of the NammaQA. So we can suggest our friends also regarding the workshop also.
Wonderful. Great to know that. Yeah, I would really appreciate. You can ask your friends so that we can help them, and we can make them place, and they can excel in their career. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, guys. Yeah, fine. I do see a lot of feedback on the chat window as well. Wonderful to hear from you guys. Now, quickly, let me walk you through the remaining set of slides, which will be based on like what would be our upcoming sessions. Okay, I see. Okay, cool. Let me come back. Okay, so you see, this is our website. Okay, www.nammaqa.com. Okay, you can step into our community platform. Okay, basically this is a platform wherein you can find more things that would be really helpful for you people. Okay, just give me a second, guys. I just want to attend this call from my senior management person here. Just give me a second. Okay, sorry for that, guys. All right, so let me go back to the slides. Okay, fine. So you see, this is a QR code. Okay, in this particular slide, you can scan this QR code. Okay, and if you have any other questions, you can ask your questions from here, or you can give your feedback. Your valuable feedback will be really helpful for us in order to say like make our workshop much better, and it will be helpful for other people as well. So I will give 30 seconds time. Quickly scan this QR code, and you can provide your feedback through online. Okay, so I'll just wait for another 30 seconds and then I'll move on to the next slide.
You can use by scanning QR code or by the link, you can fill those form also. So kindly fill it. You will be having a time till 10:30 to fill this form. So after 10:30, it will be closed.
Okay.
I think you can go to the next slide, I guess.
Okay, sure. Yes. Yeah. So coming to the next slide. Yeah. This is our platform, www.NammaQA platform. Okay, so wherein a lot of things you can have or you can see through this particular platform, right? So this is the platform. Once you go to this platform, you can register yourself to this platform, and there are a lot of stuff that you can make use of over here. You can see who we are, and uh, you can reach out to us anytime. Okay, and there are many other stuff wherein you can write your feedback, and you can select talk with the top uh, notch community people over here. Okay, you can speak to them in case if you face any issues related to your work life. Okay, we are here to help you, and there are tutorials over here wherein we can have you can see the articles on quality assurance. Okay, you can access this by navigating to Namma articles. Okay, and also you have certain things like QA SOS. Okay, this QA SOS is like, for example, you're working as a QA. Okay, and you have a problem for which you're not getting solution within your organization, right? So once you go to this QA SOS, right, all you need to do is select. Okay, all right, it's asking me to log in. Let me quickly log in. Okay, and okay, so now I have logged in. So once you come to this community part and click on QA SOS, you can have a industry expert, okay, who will be guiding you, or say like who will be supporting you in coming out of your problems. Okay, the minimum charge would be 1,000 rupees. This is the starting price. Okay, and you can have a session with our industry experts, whether it can be a automation problem that you're facing, or any sort of problems that you are facing with respect to the quality assurance. Okay, you can have the solution for each and every problem that you come up with. Okay, that is what the industry's experienced people that we have in our community. Now coming back to other related information, right over here, you have something called as meetups and workshops. So once you come up here, you will get to know like what are the next meetups or workshops that we are going to conduct in advance, and you can register yourself and you can attend the workshops. And another things are like there is something called as assets and artifacts, wherein you can see the test artifacts, and you can have the resume templates. So these test artifacts will have the test case templates. Okay, a different kind of test case templates which will be utilized as per the industry standards. Okay, when whichever that you would like, you can purchase it. That is your wish. Okay, and coming back to the next thing, right? And we have select mock-up interview. So once you prepare yourself, right, you can take the mock interviews with our industry experts. Okay, all you need to do is come to QA Navigator, click on mock interviews, and you need to click here in order to say like align yourself with the industry expert. Okay, and there will be a 45 minutes of mock interview session, and you will be getting the feedback immediately in the call itself, like what are the things that you need to improve, and what are the other ways that you can improve yourself to crack any sort of interviews. Okay, so this is one thing, right? And there are many other stuff, right? So if you want to see the interview opportunities that you want to get, right? If you click on discover opportunities, all you need to do is you need to subscribe to our NammaQA WhatsApp channel. So if you subscribe to our NammaQA WhatsApp channel, right, you will be receiving hell lot of interview opportunities uh, triggered to your WhatsApp messages of this NammaQA community channel. So you can go through the requirements which suits you well, and you can make use of that and attend the interviews. So this is all about our NammaQA platform. Okay, and quickly moving on to the next thing. So we understood what is about NammaQA platform, and yeah, upcoming workshops. So these are the planned upcoming workshop. We are planning to come up with a Postman tool workshop, which would be in the next 10 days. And also we are planning to come up with API automation workshop, which would be which is planned in the next 20 days time. We will come up with the date and time as I showed you in the NammaQA platform, right? So you can register there and you can keep a track when our next uh, workshop will be conducted. And also we have mobile testing and mobile automation related workshop, which is planned on 23rd and 24th of April. Okay, but in order to attend this particular workshop, there are certain prerequisites. Okay, the prerequisite is Selenium with Java or Python knowledge is mandatory, or experience is mandatory. Okay, at least you should know Java, Selenium, or Python or Selenium, so that you can easily understand the mobile testing and mobile automation. Okay, this is one of the prerequisite. And coming to the next slide, see, a few people were asking, like, we wanted to know in depth and understand in depth so that we can crack the interviews and we can excel ourselves in the career, right? So this is the academics that we have planned for experienced as well as freshers. Okay, wherein they can learn in-depth API, rest assured of with API automation. Okay, we can learn mobile application testing and automation of mobile application with APM, with framework called as behavioral data driven BDD framework. And we will give you 100% interview assistance and interview placements. Okay, and we will provide you real-time support. Real-time support as in whichever application that you're trying to automate, we will give you a real-time support in order to automate that. But however, the prerequisite is Java and Selenium knowledge or experience is mandatory. And see, if you see here, we are charging 8,999 for this particular academics or for this course. I will tell you, see, money is not a matter for us. All right, why I am telling this is we have conducted a free academic course for a set of 150 people. Okay, but they did not show any sort of interest, or they did not say like have that gist in them to learn this and excel in their career. Okay, and we people, we sat and thought why this is happening, and later we boiled down to such a point that we are giving this things for free, and whatever that we give for free, people will not know the value of it, right? So keeping that thing in mind, we are charging people so that they will have that interest and they will have that seriousness. Basically, they'll have that seriousness of learning and excelling in their career. Okay, you can just go through any other academics that is provided by any other people across the institutes that you can see. This particular course, easily they will charge somewhere around 25 to 30,000. But we don't want so much money. We want you people to have that seriousness. That is the reason we are charging this small amount. Okay, and you can register for this particular course. Okay, through this uh, say like NammaQA platform itself. And we are starting the weekend batch on 30th of March. Okay, and You will get a real-time support no matter whatever doubts that you have and questions that you have on this. Okay, and quickly moving on to next slide. These are the support what you can expect from us. Okay, we have a comprehensive curriculum. Okay, we will deep dive into all the aspects of the software testing, and we'll make sure that each and every concept is explained in depth, and we have a hands-on experience giants in our platform, okay, who has industry experience of more than 10 years. Okay, and you'll get expert guidance, all right, and you'll have a personalized support. Okay, the personalized support as in you will get a dedicated support from the industry expert, and we will give you a very good career development and growth. And these are some other few of the courses that we offer. Okay, manual testing, mobile application testing, SQL and API testing with Postman, and manual testing knowledge on experience is mandatory. And real time testing tools, what are the tools that is used in the real time industries in the current market, those particular tools will be explained. And automation testing using Selenium with Java, and API automation with different frameworks, and mobile application automation using APM with Java Selenium. Knowledge and experience is mandatory. So if you want to understand or learn APM of mobile application testing, and performance testing using JMeter, and ETL testing, Salesforce testing, and resume building and interview preparation. So these all are the things our course will consist of. And the next thing is, these are the upcoming batches. Weekend batch on Python Selenium with API automation, and evening batch on full stack, manual mobile automation, API, SQL, and other testing tools. You can just scan this QR code, or you can visit this URL if you want to register yourself. And you can follow us on the social media. Okay, we are in WhatsApp, Instagram, Telegram, LinkedIn, YouTube. Okay, we are in Twitter. Okay, so if you want, you can just scan this QR code, or you can copy this tiny URL if at all, if you want to register for the training sessions. Okay, and you can follow us on all those social media that I have told you. Okay, and coming to the next slide, this is a final slide. Thank you very much for your patience, guys, and I really appreciate your questions and your feedback. Okay, this is the end of the session.
Hi, Vikram. Thank you so much for the wonderful session. Your expertise, passion, and dedication to subject matter were truly evident throughout the workshop. It was really a very nice session. I hope many people got help from this session. And your willingness to share your knowledge and experience really inspired many of the people in this session to explore the APIs in their professional journeys. And to our wonderful audience, community members, thank you so much, each and every one of you, for your active participation and enthusiastic engagement during the workshop. And your presence here today, it's really a testament to your commitment to continuous learning, professional growth, and especially your valuable time. For that, we are really grateful. I understand we had a technical glitch at the beginning. Kindly apologize for the inconvenience caused. These challenges will definitely help us. Like, will definitely improve us. It will give a chance to improve us in all aspects. And someone asked in the chat like about this materials. Kindly join those detailed sessions whenever it starts. We'll update you through email ID which you have registered. All the email IDs and the details are pasted in the chat. kindly go through it. And thank you each and everyone. Thank you, Vikram.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that introduction. But unfortunately, due to technical glitch, I could not hear that introduction. But fine, and sorry for that technical glitch, guys. Hope you people understand. Technology is something which is apart from human tendency. So hope you guys understand that.
Oh, so for everyone, if you switch on the camera once, right, you can see our faces. It's like, right, so that will be good for everyone. If you switch on your just for a while, right, so that participants, we can also see them, right, what the participants who attended. So any chance you can switch on your cameras.
I'll only take the initiative of turning it on. Let me show my face to you people. Okay, your camera is being okay, fine. So your camera is being used by other apps. Close those apps and try again. Okay. Again, a technical glitch over here. Okay, just give me a moment. All right. Hi, Nikhil. Yeah, hi, Gautam. Nice to see you.
In 1 minute.
Hi, Nagashri.
Guys, turn on your camera. It will be interactive.
Hi, Pradeep.
Hi, Madhuri, Ajit. Nice to see you guys. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for your valuable time. It was nice meeting you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, you're welcome, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir. It's a nice.
Yeah, you're welcome, Gautam.